Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Emily,
Here.
Fred.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. So the first item of business is new business, communications. I'm going to read from my iPad. I had an email on March 11 from the tree warden he's posted 8 trees in the town for removal. We had talked about the trees and on 13 Beckwith Lane, one had been removed and now the other one is posted for removal. And he is also, he wants the stumps ground if possible. I'm sorry, yes, that was 13 Academy Lane, excuse me, 13 Beckwith Lane. There's another tree posted, a sugar maple. These are all maples. 25 Sill Lane, a red maple. Cross Lane Firehouse, he wanted to bring this one to our attention, just in case there's any questions. There's a red maple with an X on it at the Cross Lane Firehouse. It's the island in the center, which you kind of pull around when you go in and out. And that, I noticed when I voted, when was it? Last year, that those trees are are declining. So they have a lot of decay. And he's also asked for the other trees. There's 2 others to prune out the dead wood. 18 Boggy Hole Road, quite a few. 2 dead trees, a dead oak and a dead hickory. 15 Boggy Hole Road, 1 large white oak that was started by Eversource but not finished next to a maple tree, and a dead oak across the street. So he wanted us to know, Martha, if you didn't get all of those addresses, I'll give them to you at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Or you should actually just sum it up and say 8 trees posted for removal.
Okay.
Okay. So that was new business. Under old business, town hall tree trimming. That was completed. And I am going over there. We just received the invoice and I'll try to get to town hall tomorrow. We received the invoice yesterday and I want to look at the work before I approve the invoice. And that invoice, the funding for it is in our carryover from last year. $1,080 is the cost, and that will be posted against tree contracted services in our carryover from last year. Any questions about that? I'll get to that later when we do the budget. I'll talk more on that. Okay, so we'll move on to North Green, Sill Lane tree planting. I got in touch with the nursery, well, I got on their website actually, and right before the meeting, the fellow who usually plants for us, Steve Sparico with River End Landscaping, called about 10 minutes ago to say that his schedule is open in April. So we have him anytime we want in April to plant for us. These are the following are the trees that are available for us. Nyssa sylvatica, which is the black gum, green gable. And if you want to write these, I'm going to give you the size and the cost. 2 to 2.5 inch calipers, $295. 3 to 3.5 inch caliber is $485. 4 to 4.5 inch caliber is $795. That's green gable. That is a cultivar of the species. Then there's another that we talked about when we were looking to plant this, the Nyssa sylvatica. It's called Wildfire. and it's 1.5 to 2 inch caliber is 205, 2.5 to 3 inch caliber is 345. And then the straight species is 2 to 2.5 at $240. That's the straight species. I did talk with one of the representatives there, one of the managers of the person who we worked with a few years ago when we planted was not there available that day that I called, but he said they've had reports that wildflower doesn't seem to be hardy, and he suggested Green Gable. So what I would like you to do before we make a final decision is to go online and read about Green Gable versus wildfire. I keep saying wildflower, wildfire. And then of course we have the straight species. So I asked him about planting. He said, what size are you looking at? We usually do 3 to 3.5. And he said, it's not a problem. The landscaper, he said that he can handle that easily with his machinery. So that's not a problem. Are there any questions? I'm looking to do this. Hopefully we can do it in April. What I wanted to ask is just suggest a suggestion, just a thought, but we're planting the one tree. And I was wondering if you had any suggestions or any thoughts about planting maybe a couple of shrubs, or maybe flowering trees, a couple of flowering trees, one flowering tree in addition to the tupelo. And if you do, should we do it now or should we wait till fall? I would like your input, please.
I'd like to do it now. Something like from the Eversource list that we have of the low growers, something like the tree lilac or something, something equivalent that people like.
Okay.
That will not, pruning won't allow it to interfere with the driver's vision of oncoming cars on the opposite roads.
Okay. Joan, do you have a suggestion?
I think we should plant another one, and I like the tree lilac or a flowering cherry.
And Emily, how about you?
I agree. Let's, while he's there, we can do it. Let's do it now.
Some of that funding probably will need to take, because we have 1,500. So that probably will, in the carryover. So that would take care of probably one tree. So the other tree, the second tree would have to be from our budget this year. So just so you know that. How about you, Fred? Are there any suggestions from any trees you would like to suggest?
Well, it seems to make sense to plant another tree if the guy's already there. Those are all fine trees. I like dogwoods, but just the dogwood. There's a lot of fine trees.
Yeah, I was going to mention dogwood as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just have one thought about dogwood. I think the dogwoods, the native dogwoods, would be very pretty, but the fact is they have just been, they have had such a problem with diseases.
Yeah.
The anthracnose and on their leaves. So I think, I'm just judging by the dogwood in our yard. They also like a bit of shade. So that's another thing. And they're sensitive to salt. That's another thing. I don't know. I mean, obviously in the center or near the center, they wouldn't be affected, but I think there's already a dogwood along the road there, along the Route 1 side, the Boston Post Road side. So tree lilac, I know, is hardy, and the roots are not sensitive to salt. So that, and the cherry, well, then we always have the funguses. So But we could look at them. We could look at them, and we know we're going to do that. So if you're all in agreement, then,
May I say one more thing about the tree
Sure.
lilac?
sure.
The pollinator pathway people will love us because it says on the Eversource publication that the tree lilac attracts butterflies and hummingbirds.
Yes, yes. And I have to say that the one that we have at Town Hall, if Joan, you remember this, Emily remembers this, that it was actually planted before construction began on the new addition, the meeting hall. It was actually planted out front at the curb. And we had it dug up and moved to the entrance driveway between the house on the south side and the entrance driveway. And it's doing very well. So I think that's probably, it is a beautiful tree. Yes, and it blooms in June. That's another thing that I like. But let's look at that. Look at the, I think it's Syringa reticulata, the cherries, and
Yes.
look at the dogwood. And we're set with the, and you also have to get back to me about Green Gable versus Wildfire. I think the Green Gable is not as showy with the colors of the leaves, but from what the their rep tells me, it's pretty hardy. So I wasn't even familiar with that cultivar until I went on their website. So I need to hear from you so we can make arrangements for that, okay, for both of them. So if you would get back to me in the next week or so and just tell me what your thoughts are.
Sure,
Okay.
Joanne.
Okay,
I have a question.
Tree lilacs are nice.
okay. So just do your investigation and get back to me.
Okay.
All right.
Joanne,
Yes.
for the tupelo, you mentioned the diameter, I guess, of the stem.
Yes.
How does that translate into height?
2 to 5. Are you asking about a specific?
Well, You mentioned the three diameters, and I'm kind of wondering what.
Well, I would say 3 to 3.5 inch caliber, probably 8 feet, maybe.
Okay.
Small. But that's usually what we plant.
I see.
Sometimes, depending on the tree, it could be 10 feet.
Yeah, that seems like a nice height. to start.
Yes. Well, this type of tree, I think the cultivars, if I'm not mistaken, you'll read about them.
Okay, yeah.
I think they're actually a bit faster growing than the straight species. It is a slow growing tree. So that's a consideration as well. But I think the tree lilac is a good choice also. Okay, so that's your homework. Okay, let's see here. All right.
I'm on, by the way.
Oh,
Good.
Ann, good. That's great. Did you hear that?
I just done. I didn't get all of it, but I'll get it from the
Okay.
notes.
We're looking at trees. We looked at the trees. I gave the information for the trees that are available at the nursery for the Sill Green. And then I asked everyone if they wanted to plant a second tree at the same time or wait until the fall. And everyone agreed it should be in the spring now, along with the black gum. And I also asked for suggestions, and the suggestions were the tree lilac, a cherry, and a dogwood.
And this is all to go where?
On the Sill Lane Green, where we're planting in
okay.
April. Steve, yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay, got it.
So do you have any suggestions from your, that you would like to
No.
see? Okay.
Nope.
So everyone is going to
just keep climate change in mind.
Yes, we will. So everyone is going to be looking for information, if you would like to do so as well, for Green Gable versus wildfire, because we had thought we would plant wildfire, but when I spoke to the representative, he told me that he's had some not so good reports about wildfire, excuse me. Green Gable seems to be more hardy. So if you would like to read about that, please, and about the other trees, the tree lilac, cherry, there was a suggestion of a cherry or dogwood, and then get back to me about your ideas, okay? Within the next week. All right, Ann? Did you get that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So from here, we go to Berry Road Sidewalk.
Okay, that's what I have.
Okay. I have Deanie, I would like to review this, and then I have public comment on the agenda after that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to drive by and see the stakes when they were in the ground?
Yes.
Yes.
I did not see them.
How about Joan and Ann? Did you see the stakes?
They were out
did.
of the ground. They were on the ground when I saw them. They weren't upright.
Okay.
Yeah.
I sent you photos that I took of them. Did everyone see the photos that I sent you this week?
Yes.
Yes.
Where they were? That kind of gives you an idea. The stakes that were close, far off the road near the hedge was the outermost part of the 4 feet. So what I would like to say first about this is there have been comments that I've heard about safety with moving the sidewalk. That's that's one of the suggestions, is to move the sidewalk to the south side. And I've heard comments about safety. And of course, everyone is concerned about safety, and we all are. And I would just like to say that I think we will leave it up to the engineer, certainly, and the town officials to advise us about the safety issue of the crossings, the pedestrian crossings. Right now, we're just going to look at, from our point of view, look to see if it's a possibility. When I went to, my husband drove me the following day after our meeting on Friday. Our meeting was on Thursday, I think the 18th, and my husband and I went the following day after our driveway was plowed to see Ferry Road with the stakes, and on the south side. And we drove from Lime Street to 156. We made a U-turn and came back up the road. And I have to tell you this, when we made the turn in the bend where the first house is, there's a slight turn, and the entire street was, area was covered with snow. It was a snowscape. And when I looked, I asked him to stop the car, and I was just really taken back by the sight of that, with the large trees on one side and no trees on the other side, and tried to envision what it would look like if those trees were gone and it was just several small, tiny trees, 3.5-inch caliber, in that space. And it was really hard. It was in my mind, it was barren. It looked so barren. And we know that from the landscape architect's review, and from our own, when we walked, Fred and I and Michael walked, that there is an area there where it will not be possible to plant because of the grade of this strip of land by the curb. The one house, 7 McCurdy Road, they will in fact lose all three of their front trees on their front right of way. So I've heard suggestions, just cut them down, which not all of them are in decline I shouldn't say that. They're in decline, but they're not all beyond trimming. And this is from the landscape architect's report. They can be trimmed. There are several limbs that could be trimmed. So this is why we were looking at the south side versus the north side to see if we could relocate the sidewalk. The south side, as you could see from my photographs, there are some obstacles. There's a hedge and a fence that are actually built and planted on the town right of way. And of course, there's the phone poles. There's 3 trees on that side. One is a maple tree that it looks like it's not in very good shape. There's the 2 cherry trees that are down the road in front of Lyme Regis. And I sent you a photo of what one of them looked like. It has a big wound or disease in the trunk. So I don't know how long if that will survive if we move the sidewalk, but there's a possibility that it would. I don't know. Cherry trees are very forgiving, as evidenced by the sidewalk that we did on Lime Street. When we surrounded the Weeping Cherry, we went around it with the sidewalk. So, and that survived. And it's growing very well. So I think that with everything being said, we're being slow, we're being deliberate, we're taking everything into account. The next thing we do, we owe the neighbors a conversation, and we will be doing that. We talked about it last month. It's Town Hall's project. They will be sending out letters to the abutters, and we will be walking with them along the road, explaining the project and explaining what all the details. I don't know when that will take place yet. We'll have to depend on the tree warden because he works out of town. So, and we certainly want him to be along with us. So that being said, I am, what I would like to do today is recommend. We have 3 plans really. The first plan would be to move the sidewalk to the south side using what we know right now as our guide. The second plan is to try to maybe move the sidewalk getting permission from the homeowners to circle the sidewalk. We'd have to go onto their property, private property. I don't know how they would feel about that. We don't know. And then the third, of course, is to cut all the trees down. So that is where we are right now. I did hear from several people that they like the idea that we're being slow and deliberate. And they feel that it's a big project and we need to take our time. Of course, we're under a timeline, but we need to talk with everyone involved before we make a final decision. So that being said, I'm going to call on each one of you to tell me your thoughts. And then we'll hear from Deanie, who is a resident of Lime Street. So with that said, Michael, you're first, please.
My first concern is that we be ready no matter what is decided by the town and the engineer. And in my experience in construction, from what I saw of that sidewalk, if they have money, whether from a grant or whatever source, to move the sidewalk to the south side, that north sidewalk is still going to remain a severe liability problem.
Yes.
And for that reason, I think that's going to weigh heavy on whether or not they remove it. So leaning towards that as a possibility, but being ready in case the south side becomes a good idea, why don't we try to propose however many trees we would substitute for the ones that are to be removed because of very bad condition, or what we can do about the ones that are going to be trimmed down, if we can supplement those with another planting. And so I'd simply say that people may be happy, even though they're losing the volume in the canopy, if they get a 3-for-1 offer, so to speak. Again, some of the trees that Eversource recommends for underneath their service lines. So that's.
Well, I agree with you there. I think that that we definitely need to be ready. But we don't really have a plan yet. And I mean, we can be ready, we can talk about species, but we need to have a plan before we do it. We can develop that, I think, quickly. I mean, we all know the types of trees that we can plant. The problem with that is, how many trees can we plant? There are 10 trees slated to be taken down, 10 trees in the plan. So how many can we replant? We know that there's a steep bank in front of number 7. We had to build it up in order to put the small hornbeam there. I mean, we had to actually have the installer build up that bank because it's such a small area. And then we have the area that is area beyond Lieutenant River Lane where the Zelkovas are. That's a tough area too, because that's a steep bank. So if they go, I think from what I remember, the landscape architect does not recommend replanting there. So I understand what you're saying. I do. And I think we all know that it's dangerous. I also thought that one of the solutions discussed for the north side at the last meeting with Tim and the engineer would be to pull up those slabs and put grass in there. That was part of this discussion of moving to the south side. If, after we talk with the abutters, it would be to pull up those slabs and just plant grass there. Now, we don't know if that will be approved or how the homeowners feel, but that's one of the solutions with moving to the south side, taking up the sidewalk down to Lieutenant River Lane. And then there was a crossover there, and then leaving the sidewalk, if you remember, on the west side to go out to 156. So, okay, Joan, how about you?
Well, as I see it, we're in trouble no matter which plan we take. I don't think the people on the south side are going to be too happy, the one with the fence and the hedge. And we're also going to have to get rid of those cherry trees to get the sidewalk in behind the telephone pole. And as Michael said, we're then left with a sidewalk on the other side, which is a potential hazard. I always say, take down the damn trees and forget about it, because we'll have to do it.
Okay. Emily, how do you feel?
So, can everybody hear me? Just making sure.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I think I am definitely pro south side, moving it across the street if possible. I don't know. Has the engineer said anything about this actually being a possibility?
Well, if
Since
you
last
listen
meeting?
to, if you go on the town website and listen to the recording of our meeting last month, I watched it last week just to be sure, about all of this. And he thought it was doable. However, you saw the photos that I took, and I just don't know how the homeowners with the hedge and the fence would feel I don't know how we get around that. So, but
Right.
that's going to be up to the engineer to figure out. That's what I'll say. And,
Right.
that and the safety of it. But he
Yeah.
seemed to think it was doable, but we don't know that for sure. So
Right.
we need to rely on him and town officials to tell us if this is actually doable.
Because my concern is if we take down all the trees on the north side, like you said, there's probably a lot of areas that you can't put them back.
Yeah.
You're cutting down tons of trees, and we are the tree commission. We rather not do that. So if it's possible to do it on the other side, I understand we will upset some of the folks on that side. But that again, like Degnan said last month, if we do it on the south side, we're only in charge of those 3 trees.
That's right.
I think we're all in agreement that they should come down. Maybe we could, offer to plant some new ones along that side if possible. But as far
Are you
as
talking about the south side?
yeah, the 2 cherries and the maple,
Okay.
I think we'd all probably be in favor of taking those down and possibly, if we can, plant replacements. But as far as I think our role as tree commission, we kind of would be out of it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
my whole
Yes.
take is I'm pro south side, letting the engineer and the town figure out if that's a possibility. Then we as tree commission can, approve tree removals, possible plantings, and then we kind of stay out of it all.
Okay.
I'd rather not cut all those trees down across the road, but if the south side is not a possibility, which is not our decision, then
Yes.
I agree with everybody is. Then we have to take every opportunity to save the ones that are worth saving. And the reality is, a lot of them are going to have to come down. So, I mean, it's a liability to the town, no matter what.
Yes.
Something has to be done. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. All right, Fred, how about you? Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
It was good hearing all the opinions. Yeah, I think we just have to let the town know what the consequences are of their decisions. So if it is on the south side, eventually some of the trees on the north side will have to come down anyway. So they should be made aware of that. And then possibly if the sidewalk ends up on the north side, I think Mike was alluding to this, is offering to the homeowners to have some trees to plant to replace the ones that will come down. And then I just had was wondering if there might be space to plant trees on the south side to make up for the trees that we lose if the sidewalk ends up being on the north side. So,
Well, we have wires there. That's the utility wires. So that's usually when
okay.
under wires, we can't plant big shade trees. So we can plant flowering ornamentals, but we talked about that a few years ago. Tom Degnan was not fond of that. Maybe in this situation he would be, because of the fact that the ornamentals the branching is quite low, and it would impact people getting in and out of their cars where they're planted. So we might revisit that again, though, if this, if this whole, whatever happens, we may revisit that. It would be nice to see some flowering trees along there. I agree.
There's quite a bit of space there, and it's fairly open. So I don't know.
Yes, it is. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Anne.
Well, I mostly defer to the engineer, I think. I don't think we can do a whole lot until we know what the best way is. I like the south side, but maybe it's not possible.
Yes. Okay. That's what we're waiting for.
I'm not an engineer. I don't know enough.
I know. That's exactly how I feel. It's we have to depend on the engineer. So what I'm going to open it up for public comment. Is there anyone else besides Deanie who is on here? Martha?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So would you please announce your name and where you live, Deanie? Welcome.
Okay, thank you. My name's Deanie Mallory, and I live on Lime Street, but I am walk down Ferry Road, several times a day. And I'm not even. I know that this project intersects with the Historic District Commission, the Tree Commission, the Selectmen. So I'm just. I've come to you just to throw out this idea. I'm going to focus my comment a little bit on the north side because I suspect that the town may encounter quite a bit of opposition from the residents on the south side for all the reasons that Joanne, you've mentioned. It's very close to the front doors of some of those houses, and there are a variety of reasons. Also, I think that if it were to be moved to the south side, the north side sidewalk will probably remain there. And I can guarantee you everyone's going to continue to walk on the north side because it's an easier way to loop around from Lime Street. But leaving that aside, my suggestion that I just popped into my head was, what if we removed 5 of the trees instead of 10 of the trees and replaced the sidewalks, and then let the remaining 5 trees, or let's just, whatever number you decide, live out their natural life and just plan to replace the sidewalk as those trees as it becomes worse. So in other words, we could retain the balance so it wouldn't look as if we denuded Ferry Road. So what I'm suggesting maybe is a compromise in taking down some, but not all, of the trees on the north side.
Well, that would be a solution if the roots were not growing so close to the wall.
Yeah.
The walk.
Some are much worse than others.
Well, here's the dilemma, Deanie. They need to widen the walk. It's presently 3 feet, and they need to widen it to 4 feet. So that will impact the trees greatly. That's what this whole issue is, expanding the sidewalk.
No, I know, I understand. I just think there's no good solution. So
no, there isn't. I know. That's where we are. And actually, some of the trees that appear to be in decline, from the landscape architect's report, they recommend that we could just trim some of them.
Yeah.
And if we could, it would be ideal if we could trim some. There's a few I know that Tom would definitely post to take down, but that would be the perfect solution in an ideal situation, because we could take down a few and plant as we go. So we'd have a mixture of small, young trees.
It would be much less of a shock. It would be much less of a shock to the town, to the people, to our visual sort of streetscape, our historic streetscape. So
yes.
Anyway, that's really all. It's not.
Yes, that's a very good idea, and that's what actually we would like to do, but it's just the expanding the sidewalk from, when we did Church Corner. Back when we did Church Corner, the top part of the sidewalk, from the corner, excuse me, the top portion of the sidewalk, when you come Lime Street and you make that right-hand turn, that was widened when we did Church Corner to, I believe it's the second house or the first house on Ferry Road, the corner house, and then the second. That's 4 feet.
Yeah.
And then the sidewalk narrows to 3 feet. And oh my gosh, excuse me. The sidewalk was narrowed, and is narrow there, and they need to expand it because of the ADA. And what I learned was the ADA would accept 3 feet. That's their minimum standard, but they prefer 4 feet. However, the town standard, and I think the town standard now is 5 feet. At least that's what they're doing in Soundview. I'm a little puzzled about, because they talk widening to 4 feet, but then the town standard is 5 feet. Maybe they may have to get a variance for it for the 4 feet. So
I
I'm
don't
not
think
even
Lime Street
sure.
5 feet.
Pardon?
I don't think Lime Street's
No,
5.
it's not. I don't know if planning has changed that. I don't really know. In fact, First Selectman was going to check with the building department about that. And I don't know that that's even been confirmed, what the standard is, but it could be 4 feet. Martha, do you know that? Did you
I
know
don't know.
what that is? Okay.
No.
So I think Lime Street may be 4 feet, but
I-
Ferry Road, and they're concerned about wheelchairs and getting wheelchairs through there. Plus the town has a snow sweeper, a machine, you probably have
Yeah.
seen it, a machine that sweeps snow. So for them to sweep the walks, they need a wider sidewalk. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's where we are. I just, I look at Ferry Road and I think, wow, I can't even imagine it. What,
I
how it
know.
would look without.
What you described, Joanne, as you made your turn up there at the corner, is exactly right. It would look as if the place had been denuded. It would look like something. Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to throw out that little compromise idea, and it sounds as if it's
Thank you.
impractical, but that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
So
We're going to be meeting with the neighbors. We have to, there's a lot of talk about all of this. So as soon as we can, the weather breaks, we'll be meeting with the neighbors, and probably 2 sessions, maybe more, and walk Ferry Road. Because of COVID restrictions, we can't obviously do all the people at one time, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to walk Ferry Road. So thanks for your input, for sharing it with us. Martha, do you have that in the minutes?
I do, yes.
Good, good.
yeah, I'll let you finish your meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So what I would like to say is about all of this, and thinking it over, since we have so many different opinions here, I don't think that we have a plan to vote on. We don't have a plan. And to me, a vote means an endorsement. So we have mixed opinions. So what I suggest, listening to all of you, as we just make a recommendation and not vote. We make a recommendation, and depending on, I know how you all feel, we should explore, let's call it explore. I'm calling it Plan 1, which is moving to the south side. Once that's been decided, if it's safe, if all the other things we talked about with the homeowners or whatever, we have their input, then we can go on to the next phase and really make a plan what we're going to do. But we need to get through this south side suggestion and get more details from the engineer. And the most important thing is the homeowners who will be affected. So are you okay with that? Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Is there any benefit in the interest of time if a couple of people worked on potential plantings to offer the homeowners on the south side and a potential planting plan for the north side at the same time, so that we're not holding anybody up and we're ready?
Well, I certainly think we can do that. maybe what we'll do is, depending on when our walk will be scheduled, you can all get a list together of what you think for next month's meeting. And we'll talk about it. That would be good. Yes, to get a list of trees let's assume we're going to take down 10 trees, and let's assume then, we're assuming this, that we won't be able to plant as many trees. So if we take down 10 trees, I don't know how many we can replant. I'd have to look at the recommendations. I know there's not a flat planting field along Ferry Road, a flat planting area. And where number 7 is very narrow. As I said, we had a tough time getting that small tree in there. And that tree also is on the agenda. If it happens, the recommendation is to dig up that tree as well, which is very disappointing, but we'll work on that too. So there's a lot of details that we can work out, but my main concern right now is just to make a recommendation and to make a recommendation to explore Plan 1, which is moving the sidewalk to the south side. And we'll talk about that more. We can get more information from the engineer. We can talk with the neighbors, and then we can go from there and have our tree list ready. So I don't know how the first selectman will proceed after this meeting. I do know that it's in front of planning, the planning commission, that they're going to be talking about it. It has been on their agenda for a few months, and they have a meeting tonight, but they were waiting to see what we were going to do. So they're waiting for us to make a decision. So as I said, I think I don't want to vote. I really don't feel that we should vote, because voting when there's 3 different plans, voting on one is to me is premature. So I think making a recommendation right now with the information that we have, that we make a recommendation to pursue the Plan 1, moving to the south side, the sidewalk to the south side, and then revisit if it's not a possibility and go on from there. And we're going to move pretty quickly, because we have a deadline with getting this, getting the details done for the grant. So anyone else with any suggestions?
I have a comment about should we maybe wait until we talk to the neighbors before we come up with a recommendation? Do we have time to do that? It seems what you're thinking would really.
Well, the only thing
is,
here's the thing. That would, yes, I think that would be probably better, but I don't know how we can do that with the timeline that we're facing. Last month, if you recall, at the end of the meeting, the first selectman asked, well, aren't you going to make a recommendation? And I said, no, we will wait until today, until this meeting, the next meeting in March, to make a recommendation. So I think making this recommendation is just another step along in the process. Let's call it an investigation of moving this out to the south side, when getting the engineer to work on that plan to see if it's feasible. We can certainly talk with neighbors who the two neighbors who would be affected by it, which would be the abutters, I should say, with the hedge and the fence. But right now, I think we should probably make a recommendation.
Okay, and then a second point is, given all the concerns here, and I heard what you said about the width of the sidewalk. I mean, shouldn't we maybe push a little harder to get a variance or keep it to 3 feet? That would take care of, some headaches for us. Maybe
That
allow
would.
more trees.
With the first meeting in Fred in
Okay.
January or November, maybe,
Okay.
when we first had this plan introduced, when the engineer came to our meeting, that was the first thing we said. Why can't we keep it
Okay.
at 3 feet?
I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Okay.
That's okay. I know. I'm explaining that. Well, we said, why can't we keep it at 3 feet? Well, the answer was the ADA requirements. Well, the ADA requirements are 3 feet clear, whatever that means. And he mentioned that last month, and maybe it doesn't meet, what I said last month was, what I found was it was 3 feet, as long as there is a space 200 feet that where you could pass by if you have a wheelchair or if you're in a walker. So they would like to see 4 feet, but 3 feet is the minimum. I think it's 36 inches or 39 inches. That is the minimum. So, but we've already been talked about that, and town officials don't seem to be in favor of that. So, that would be up for them to pursue. We're looking at it from the tree perspective, but they seem to be pretty firm about going with 4 feet. But, we can talk to them and once again, and, ask them to come to the meeting and see. But in order to move forward, we need to, this has been very hard, very difficult, to come up to make a recommendation today. That's what we were asked to do last month. So that's why I don't think voting is it's just, voting is firm, and we don't have a firm plan yet. We'll vote when we know exactly what we're going to do, and we don't know yet. And even now, today, seems like everyone has a different opinion. And so that's what I'm suggesting. If you don't want to make a recommendation, then I would like to.
Joanne?
Yes,
Could I interrupt for a minute?
sure.
We don't have any facts. I mean, we're just tree people. We're not engineers. We don't have anything to do with the town historic society, whether the sidewalk can be on the north or the south side. I mean, all we have to do is trees, and we only do the trees after we know what they're going to do. They can't keep shifting responsibility for us to make a choice when we have no qualifications to judge any of this. At least I don't have any. I hope the rest of the commission.
We said that, made that clear last month. This isn't our project. I made a statement last month before the meeting, and Tom also said as well, this is not our project, this is the town's project. I think the reason that I'm sure the reason that this came about on our walk, which surprised me. If you remember, Fred and Michael, on our walk, after we looked at all of the trees, the first selectman said, well, maybe we should consider the south side. So we thought, well, it would save certainly a lot of headache, and certainly save the trees. So that came about on our walk. And, if that's something that we feel that we could pursue to save the trees, but none of this can be decided. We're not making a decision, because voting is a decision, and that's why I don't want to vote. And we need to talk with the homeowners first before we vote on anything. We need to hear from them. And I think the town officials were just trying to, the engineer and Tim were trying to, come up with a plan that maybe would work, that would save the trees instead of having this blank landscape on Ferry Road. I think they were trying to help everyone in this situation. The homeowners, the tree commission, whatever, and talk about it. It's just something that we've talked about. We need to know if it's going to work. Will it work? Will it be safe? What's going to happen? And we know on the north side that the sidewalk can be taken up. That's in our minutes from last month. Seed can be planted. We don't know how those homeowners will feel without their sidewalk. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in this conversation. That's what I'm calling it, a conversation. But, I guess since we are not ready to make a recommendation, then we're not ready. Is that it? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. We're not ready. This is not our project.
Okay.
But I think we are ready to say some things, and maybe you can call it a recommendation, maybe it's something else, but we can tell them, if you do the south side, this will be the consequence. If you do the north side, this will be the consequence. I mean,
Yes.
I think that's the information they're looking for. And then, they ultimately will make the decision, but we like the trees, we care for the trees, and we can tell them what the consequences will be of plan A or B, whatever that is. And I think that'd be of great use to them.
Okay.
Work through this on their end.
Okay. So Emily and Anne, how do you feel?
I don't feel
Yeah,
we're qualified.
Yeah, I agree. I think this, we're tree commission. I feel like it's getting kind of
I
thrown in
know.
our lap as well.
I know.
Like you say, tell us what the decision is, and we will. But I understand that it's a very emotional, decision, and other people are affected. So I don't know. I don't know if we're ready to recommend or not. Or I'd like to hear if the south side is a possibility. I don't know where the engineer is, but if we could get a yes or no on that, that would. It's a huge bit of info we need.
Okay.
So
we're not ready to make a
Just one more
recommendation.
comment. I thought the woman who called in said people will walk on the north side anyway was quite a good comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may have a dirt path there, a grassy path to walk
That's
along.
right. I
But,
think
it's
that's
a matter,
right.
I think it's just a matter of adjusting, but anyway.
Hmm.
So Fred, I'm going to ask you to say that again. And I want Martha, if you could put that in the minutes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, my thought was just to let the town know what the consequences of their decisions will be regarding what will happen to the trees. So the trees that'll be lost if they do this or that, and possibly some of the things we could do to, remediate their decision. So planting trees
And
for neighbors.
do you have anything to say about the south side at all?
I don't, other than we'll tell them that if they do the south side, these trees will have to be removed. They can keep most of the north trees.
Okay.
But some of the north trees,
I don't know that the cherries will, we talked about this last month. The one cherry tree that the engineers seem to think that we would be well on one side of that. I don't know. That's one weeping cherry. The other one is in bad shape anyway, but okay. So we're not, so I guess I'll say this. We're not ready to make a recommendation that we will, if the town decides to pursue the south side, moving the sidewalk, the north sidewalk to, and moving it to the walk to the south side of Ferry Road, that we will be, we'll go along for, and talk with the neighbors and But we need to have more information from the engineer and the results of what will happen if that walk is moved. And we talk with the neighbors about planting trees on that side, small trees. The north side, we all know, we know about what's going to happen on the north side, that 10 trees will be coming down. So will be removed, and we cannot plant 10 trees to replace the ones coming down. It's just not doable with on the north side. So
Joanne,
that
one last
said,
question.
yes.
I'm sorry, one last question. Is there a possibility that the trees that are down on the difficult slope area or anywhere along there could all be moved to the homeowner's side of the sidewalk if they like that? That even if we, even if we're responsible for planting them.
Can the trees be moved?
Yeah, can replacement trees go on the homeowner's side of the sidewalk since they stand to benefit from the replacements if that happens?
Well, right now, we have only planted on municipal property, so I don't know.
Thank you.
We would have to ask them if they would even want trees. Some of them already have trees, but certainly the Zelkovas, the 3 Zelkovas, I wouldn't think that there's a hedge there and there's some large trees that are on the other side of that hedge.
Yep.
So there's a few property owners probably there's probably only 3 that I would think would be interested maybe in trees. But I don't know about having them, to do that. We also would have to move them back quite far from on the front lawns because we couldn't move them just on the other side of the sidewalk because we'd be having the same problem.
The roots.
10 years down the road, we would be facing the same problem again. So, it would have to be, I also don't know what the insurance is for, somebody going in and planting on private property for the town. So that's another issue. That's just really, now we're really talking. It would be good. That would be great, but depending on what they want, but
Thank you.
the size of the tree that they want. So I don't think we really solved the problem or made any headway. I'll just tell, town officials that to go ahead and we'll just see what happens.
A homeowner, I wouldn't let you plant on my property.
Okay. I guess what I was looking for is maybe, I guess we can't, what I should say is I guess we really can't support one plan over another. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying? Basically, you don't support one plan over another.
Yes, let them tell us what they're going to do, as Fred said, and everyone are actually.
Okay, you and Joan, I know. Emily, and I have my note, Emily and Anne feel that they would like to see the south side, see what they tell us. So, okay. I think we've covered it. Martha, are you okay? Do you have all of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you I'll send you everything I have and then you can
Okay.
pick and choose.
All right. So now we go to the next. Any other questions about this project? No. Okay.
Well, Joanne,
Yes.
getting back to Michael's suggestion, and we're talking about planting on the neighbors' yards. Last meeting, I think you mentioned in Rhode Island, there's a program.
Yes.
So I think there's maybe a mechanism there.
I'm going to get to that. That's actually on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go to the clerk's report, and what I have is next is what you asked about is next. So approval of the February 18, 2021 meeting minutes. I have an amendment, Martha.
Okay.
I misstated the info about Newport's tree planting program. Now, it's what I was not correct about is I said I reported that the program was free to residents. The bare root tree program was free, and I was incorrect. And I want to correct this. The minutes. The trees are actually discounted. The cost to residents is $85. That's for the spring bare root tree program. The cost is $85 to residents for a 6 to 10 foot tall tree, bare root tree, delivered and planted by Newport City Forester on the city right of way, or in a front yard. It must be no more than 20 feet from the road where passersby can view it. Newport actually has 3 programs. Their bare root program is in the spring, which is $85 for the resident. The second is in the fall, and it's the specimen tree restoration, and that's free in exchange for a commitment to plant and maintain the tree. That's sponsored by the Newport Tree Conservancy. And a specimen tree is planted anywhere on private property, as long as they agree to plant and maintain it. The third tree planting is called the Memorative Tree Program, which the Newport Tree Conservancies plant trees in parks or other public spaces as a memorial. The first one, the bare root, is in conjunction with the Newport Tree Commission. So that was where that's where I was confused. I went back and checked that. So the specimen tree restoration is free. Newport has as its mission, the Newport Tree Commission, their mission is plant for the future. So, okay. And I must tell you before I ended that, and before I move on, that my daughter was just appointed to the Newport Tree Commission.
Yay.
Tree and open space permission.
Wow.
So she just sent me an email the other day. I said, and she didn't tell me that she had applied. So she's been involved in a lot of, she was on the Energy and Environment Committee for 9 years. So now she's moved on to the Tree Commission. So she should be able to help us with some of these programs if we decide to do it. Okay, the next thing is the budget. Balance. I don't have the date. I didn't write the date that I got the report. In the beginning of March, it was sent to me. It's $10,792. There was $1,500 deducted, which was the tree warden stipend, half of the tree warden stipend. The carryover, yeah, did someone ask me something? Okay. In the carryover, there's the $1,500 in tree and other miscellaneous, and still 1305 in contracted services. Bartlett Tree trimmed all of the trees that we had talked about back in the fall behind Town Hall, except for one. The one tree cannot be trimmed until December, which I didn't realize. It is the old tree that we managed to save during the construction, and that it's the American elm, which is the large tree back there behind where the trash barrels are. That tree was in pretty bad shape after, if you remember, it really was in decline after all the construction because they piled all the fill around it. But we managed to save that tree. Well, what I learned from Nick Vallis when we were looking at the trees, we went on a tour a couple of weeks ago, was that this is not a good time to trim the tree. I thought in early March it would be okay, but he said no, it has to be in December because of the hormone that the tree will give off, will attract, if they're in the neighborhood, the elm bark beetles. So we're going to wait on that tree. But the other trees were all trimmed. And that, I have to approve the invoice yet but I'll be driving over there tomorrow to see the work, to be sure that they've done all of the work that Nick and I talked about. So I will be approving the invoice after that. It's $1,080. So that will leave us 1305 minus 1080. I don't know how much that would be, but anyway. So we'll have a few $100s left over in that budget for carryover. But the rest of it's been spent. Okay, next thing is any other business, recent programs and presentations. In February, the Duck River Garden Club, I wrote to all of you about that. They had a very good program. I believe, Fred, you were on that. You watched that as well. That program with the Duck River Garden Club.
The ecology of the Connecticut River, yeah, by Aragona.
No, this was the Catherine Dugas with insects, plant disease she was from the Connecticut Agriculture Experiment Station.
Yep, how was that?
And that was very good. She listed all of the diseases and how to remedy the diseases, all the insects. She also talked about the emerald ash borer and the spotted lanternfly. So it was a very informative program. The other one I attended the February Freedom of Information workshop that the town sponsored. There were about 40 members of boards and commissions and committees at that meeting. And basically it was focused on holding virtual meetings. So I always learn, so I've been to several of these, but I always learn something new. So that was very good as well. And then the last was the webinar that I sent all of you the information from Clear, the Yukon series of programs.
On trees.
And yes, that was a very good program. I'm just looking. The next one the next one will be on Wednesday, March 24. And the title of it is the Nemo Rain Garden app. If you're interested in rain gardens, Yukon that group has, I guess, added some things to their app, and they're going to explain it. And then after that, on April 14, finding the right trees for the right time, forest management and climate adaptation. The one that Fred and I You were on that one too, Fred,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes,
Yeah, that one I thought was great. It was a great program. They talked about climate change, and that's what you were interested in. They talked a lot about climate change um, on that program. So, and how it's affecting our trees. There's many trees, many species that are in New England, that there's many species that are common farther south, and they're expected to see habitat now in New England. Northern species will decline, such as the sycamore, the sugar maple, the white pine. So the habitat that is already here will increase. So they talked about warmer winters, less snow and more rain, increased risk of moisture stress during growing seasons, more storms, more wildfires, insects and disease, invasive plants, and all the pests are migrating north, as we know from spotted lanternfly. So they really did. The title of it was New England Forests and Climate Change, and she actually had some graphs that she presented about how the forests looked during colonial times and how the effect and how much it's changed. So how annual precipitation has increased and how temperatures have risen 3 degrees since the turn of the century, the 20th century. So very informative. Okay, that's all that I have today. I thank you for your participation. We did rather well in an hour and 15 minutes, I think. So next time I hear from you will be to give me your ideas about the North Green, the trees on the North Green. And then we'll have to just talk with Selectman Griswold and tell him that we really didn't make a decision at this meeting about moving the sidewalk, that will be their decision, correct? Everybody in agreement? Okay.
So Joanne,
Yes.
regarding the minutes, would you like me to just make that amendment and then send it out to everybody and push the approval to next month? Because we didn't vote on it.
I know. I don't even know if we can vote next month, because we have to get all this information from the engineer. That's number one. It's going to be really on him and the town officials to tell us what they can do about, if they think moving the sidewalk, what their ideas are about moving the sidewalk. Then we can go from there. So I don't know that we're going to be voting next month, because we still have to talk with the neighbors, and that is the one item that we need to do. We need to have a meeting with the neighbors, the abutters, I should say.
So what if I make a motion to include your amendment of the minutes so that we can get it out of the way?
Yes, I have to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
We have to do that. Thank you, Michael. I forgot actually about that. So,
That's all right.
yeah, so we need a motion to amend the minutes, to change the minutes under the tree program, Newport's, just to correct the information in the Newport tree planting program.
So that motion will be mine, Martha, okay?
Okay, thanks, Michael.
And a second, please.
Second,
Who was that?
that was Ann.
Ann, okay, thanks.
Okay, everyone. Any further business? Any comments? Any questions? Any further business? All right.
No.
Then we'll talk next month. You may hear from me before then about the what's happening with the town officials.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second. Emily,
Thanks, Emily.
welcome.
Okay. Adjourned at 5:20.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right.
Favor.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. See you next month, if not before.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, take care.
Be
All right,
off,
bye
Tom.
now.
Bye.
Martha, did you want the information about where the trees were removed?
Let me see here. For removal. So here's what I have. I have 8 trees posted for removal. One at 13 Beckwith.
Beckwith, yes.
Yep, and one at 13 Academy.
Yes.
One on Sill Lane,
25.
25. Cross Lane Firehouse.
Correct. One small red maple in the island.
Okay. And then 2 at 18 Boggy Hole
Correct. Yes.
and 2 at 15 Boggy Hole.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Very good. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, Martha, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Yep, you too.
Thank you.
And we can